In the late 80s, director Ron Howard and producer Brian Grazer decided to tackle a subject more terrifying than an alien invasion or a high stakes thriller: the absolute madness of raising a family. Through the eyes of Gil Buckman and his extended family, we were given an unflinching, hilarious look at four generations of a single clan trying to navigate the messy reality of adulthood. From hyper competitive toddler schooling and teenage rebellion to an unforgettable improvised birthday party rescue by a cowboy named Cowboy Gil, this film proved that family life isn't a race to be won. So break out the unbreakable piñata, shuffle the periodic table flashcards, and be careful not to grab the electric ear cleaner if the lights go out, as Ben Carpenter and I discuss Parenthood from 1989 on this episode of the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am your host, Tim Williams. So glad to have you here with us today. Joining me in the station wagon is a regular in the studio and a man who always brings an incredibly sharp analytical eye to our 80s deep dives. Please welcome back to the show, Ben Carpenter. How you doing, Ben?
Hi, Gary. I thought I'd start with that. That's my Diane Wiest impression I've been working on.
Yeah, that works. So, yeah, Parenthood. So, where this is releasing on Father's Day weekend. I've wanted to do this around Father's Day for a while. I think either last summer or the summer before we did Mr. Mom, and you were on that episode with me. So,
oh yeah,
just two dads talking about 80s movies. Let's maybe our side project.
Yeah. Spinoff.
Yeah. So let's jump right in. When did you see Parenthood for the first time?
I did see it in the theater, so I don't remember too much about seeing it in the theater, but I do remember that I did.
Do you remember not to give away your full age, but like how old were you or what age range were you when you saw it in the theater? Like already a teenager?
I would have been, what month did it come out?
August.
Okay,
89.
so I would have been 16.
Okay, all right.
Almost
so
17.
Yeah, you were older than me. So
not a parent yet, which really changes your perspective on this
for sure.
on this film. But
yes,
I was an older kid.
Yeah. So I saw this in the theater as well. I remember seeing this with friends we talked about it when I lived in Fort Meade, Maryland. They had a movie theater on base, like just a single cinema that just ran like one movie over the weekend and some during the week. And so it had already been out for a while. So I'd seen the commercials. I was a big Steve Martin fan. I'd already seen Three Amigos. I'd seen Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I'd seen Dirty Rotten Scoundrel. So I was a big fan of his. And this one was not what I expected. Of course, the trailers were a lot of the like one-liners and the comedy. And I would say, especially going back and watching it now, like a lot of the stuff went way over my head. And I was like, the summer of 89, I was going into 9th grade. So I was like a year or two behind you. So, but still just, I appreciated the teenager portion, but more from the teenager's perspective, more so than from the parents' perspective.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I didn't appreciate it until many years later, watching it as an adult, even before I was an actual parent, but just kind of understanding some of the situations a little bit better. But so how long has it been since you rewatched it before rewatching it for the podcast?
This is one of those that, I've gone back through a lot of movies from the 80s when I showed them to my kids.
Right.
This was one that never jumped out at me as one that I was ready to share with my kids at any point. So, man, it had been a while. It had been, maybe 20 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And any of your kids watch it with you this time?
Yeah, my daughter watched it with me.
Okay. Okay. Her thoughts?
Yeah, she said she liked it. She didn't like laugh out loud at anything, but there's not a lot of
Yeah,
like laugh out loud in this movie, even though
it's
it's,
not
I
that
guess,
type of
technically a
comedy.
comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but she said she liked it. Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah. Yeah, I watched it again probably within the last 5 years, maybe, I would say. But before that, it had been probably since I was probably in high school. I
Mm-hmm.
probably watched it again on cable or, people were talking about it. And of course, when Keanu Reeves was a bigger star than he was when this came out, everybody wanted to go back and watch Keanu in it. But yeah, but it was part of a Steve Martin bundle package that I got a couple of years ago. So like I was just, one day or one week, I was just like, I'm going to watch all these Steve Martin movies. And it's a good addition to that set. I think that set's got like The Lonely Guy, Bowfinger, Father of the Bride. So it's a good kind of
Yeah. It's a good mix.
hodgepodge of, yeah. Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. Like it's a good mix of like his 80s and kind of 90s type
Yeah.
movies. But
I'd throw in
yeah.
LA Story. I always liked LA Story.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That was
that was
another
a
one I
very
didn't
different
appreciate.
movie for
Yeah.
him too.
Yeah. That was another one I didn't appreciate till I got older. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But yeah. I'm a huge Steve Martin fan. I mean, I'm watching, I'm always behind. I'm actually watching Only Murders in the Building right now, the last season. So I always like, I watch it and then I forget about like, oh, I haven't finished the seasons. But
Yeah.
him
Same,
and
same
Martin
here.
Short's so funny.
I'm on season, I think we are about to start season 3. So I know we're several seasons behind at this point.
Okay, maybe whatever the last season now is, it season 3 or season 4 now? Whatever the last season is, I'm like on episode 3, I think. So,
Yeah.
but anyway,
Yeah. Good
but yeah.
stuff.
All right. Well, now it's time to see if you actually know the DNA of how this classic script came together. We're heading into our trivia segment. It's time to play Risky Quizness.
Risky Quizness. Risky Quizness.
Today, we're looking specifically at the origins and the pre-production files of this 1980 comedy drama. I've got 5 statements for you, Ben. Your job is to tell me if they're true or if they're false.
Okay.
Take
I
a
did
deep
not
breath.
do my homework for this one, really. I did not do a lot of like background studying for it. So we're just flying off the cuff on this.
Yeah, I would say this one, I don't try to make them difficult, but this one I didn't know a lot about making this movie before doing the research. So this might be a little, I won't be upset if you miss a lot because I probably would have missed a lot if I was the one guessing. But anyway,
Okay.
we'll see how the people. Let's see how the fans at home do.
I'll give it
Those
my best
listening.
shot.
So, all right, here we go. Number 1, true or false? The entire concept for the movie was conceived by Ron Howard, Brian Grazer, and screenwriters Lowell Gans and Babalu Mandel during a miserable, chaotic flight where they all had their kids with them. True or false?
That sounds very plausible. So I'll say true.
You are correct. During a flight to a film premiere, the 4 filmmakers realized they were completely outnumbered by their own children who were crying and misbehaving. They spent the flight swapping horror stories about their own shortcomings as parents and realized that was the exact movie they needed to make next. So I love that, a lot of I didn't really get too much into in the trivia, but several of the things that happen in the movie are drawn from real life experiences, which I think is hilarious. So all right, so number 2. When developing the script, the writers collectively had a combined total of exactly 15 children, and almost every single major plot point in the movie was lifted directly from a real life event that happened to one of their kids. I think I just answered that question for you, but is that true or false?
Yeah, you kind of did. So I'll go with true.
Sorry, I forgot that was one of the questions. Yes, between Howard, Grazer, Gans, and Mandel, they had 15 children total. From the kid losing his retainer in the trash to the toddler banging his head against the wall, virtually the entire movie was a therapeutic venting session based on their real lives.
Yeah, I experienced the losing the retainer in the trash
I
and
did
digging
too.
through,
Yep.
yeah, back behind,
Well,
like
so
almost
yeah.
exactly the scene from the movie.
Well, yeah, I was the kid in that scenario. I was not the parent, but I did lose my retainer. But the bad thing is, I found it after they had gone through the trash. I had wrapped it in a paper towel or a napkin, and it was in my pants pocket, but I didn't realize that's what it was. So my dad was not too happy about that. But anyway. All right, number 3. The role of Gil Buckman was originally written specifically for Tom Hanks, but he had to turn it down due to his commitment to filming The Burbs and Turner and Hooch. True or false?
Let's see. We've had 2 trues in a row. even though that sounds possible for sure, I'll go false.
There's a man who knows how to play the odds. It is false. The role was actually written with Steve Martin in mind from the very beginning. Ron Howard wanted Martin's specific brand of frantic, high-wire physical comedy to balance out the deeply emotional and stressful dramatic beats of Gil's midlife anxieties. So I could see Tom Hanks in this role, but
Sure.
more the 90s Tom Hanks. I think he was,
Right.
he
was a
had
little
just
young.
done, he was a little young. He had just done Big, which was kind of like his first kind of foray into more of a like comedy drama role. But yeah, I think Steve Martin was cast pretty well. So, all right, number 4, true or false? Joaquin Phoenix, who was credited as Leaf Phoenix in this movie, was cast as the withdrawn teenager Gary after the casting directors saw his performance in the 1986 space camp movie Space Camp, which you and I have also covered on the podcast.
We did, yeah. Yeah, he was Leaf Phoenix in that one too. Yeah, I remember. Sure, I'll go true again.
Sorry, this was false. While he was in Space Camp, he actually won the role of Gary because Ron Howard was incredibly impressed by his quiet emotional depth during a live reading. Howard later noted the young actor brought a raw vulnerability to the character that completely shifted how they balanced the film's tone. So yeah, very different character than he was in Space Camp. So
yeah.
All right. Well, so far you've gotten 3 out of 4. Let's see if you can get 4 out of 5. Here's the last one. The studio hated the title Parenthood because they thought it sounded like a boring documentary, and they fought to have the movie released under the title The Buckman Diary. True or false?
That sounds like something some bonehead exec would say, because The Buckman Diary is a much more boring title. Okay, I'll just coin flip. I'll go false.
Good job. The working title during pre-production was actually Kids. The team eventually changed it to Parenthood because they realized the film wasn't actually about the children at all. It was entirely about the anxieties, growth, and struggles of the adults trying to raise them. So good job. Got 4 out of 5.
Yeah, not bad. I'm happy with that.
Yeah. Well, let us know how well you did. If you were playing along at home, send us an email message or a social media post, or leave us a comment right here on YouTube if that's where you're watching it from. So, all right, well, let's talk about the cast. As I was telling Ben before we started recording, it's a pretty lengthy cast. It was really marketed that way. But a lot of the cast we've talked about on other episodes, so some I will just mention and others I may do a little bit about their filmography. But let's start from the top, of course. Steve Martin as Gil. We've previously covered him in Three Amigos, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, so we're not going to go into their other filmography. But in this film, he plays the father of several children, 3 and 4 by the end. In reality, Martin did not become a parent until he was 67 years old in 2012, which I don't think I knew that.
I didn't know that
I did
either.
not know he was that. I knew he wasn't married for a long time, but I didn't realize that he didn't have a child until he was 67. So,
wow.
But,
well, it's never too late, I guess.
Yeah. And I did read that, like, before making the movie, he had no desire to have kids at all. Like that, he just didn't want kids. But then after making the movie and spending time with the kids, he was like, maybe one day. I don't think he was in any kind of rush, but.
Yeah, apparently not. He waited another 20-something years.
Yeah, exactly. But I think Steve Martin was a perfect choice, as we already said.
Oh, yeah.
He that's who they had in mind from the beginning. I think it was a good choice. So. And then we've got his wife Karen, played by Mary Steenburgen. We've covered her in Back to the Future Part 3 from 1990, which is part of our Back to the Future. Even though it's a 90s movie, we lumped it in with all the Back to the Future movies back in the day. But she's also from What's Eating Gilbert Grape in 93, Philadelphia also in 93, Nightmare Alley in 2021. She's also played mothers in a string of comedy films, including Elf, Step Brothers, Four Christmases, The Proposal, The Help, and Happiest Season, just to name a few. But yep, she's played a mom a lot. So, according to the interview in the DVD extras with composer Randy Newman, the soundtrack song "I Love to See You Smile," which is perhaps his most beloved, was written with Mary Steenburgen's smile in mind. Nice little. She does have a nice smile. I'll give her that. So
yeah. Sure.
Yeah. I thought they were a pretty decent couple, like
Yeah, I thought they
decent
were a
chemistry.
very believable
Yeah,
husband and
married
wife.
couple. Had some good scenes together.
Now, wait,
All right.
was she already with Ted Danson by this point? I don't know when they
Ooh,
got
that's a
together.
good question. I think that was later
Okay.
because I think he might have still been with Whoopi Goldberg at this point because wasn't he with her in
Yeah, I
the
forgot about
80s?
that.
Yeah. I don't think they got together until like the middle to late 90s,
Yeah,
I think.
you're probably right.
Yeah. All right, then we get Diane Wiest as Helen. Of course, we've covered her in Footloose as well as The Lost Boys, but she was also in Bright Lights, Big City in 88, Edward Scissorhands in 1990, The Birdcage in 96, Practical Magic in 98, The Mule in 2018, and I Care a Lot in 2020. Diane Wiest and Mary Steenburgen were best friends and worked as waitresses at the Magic Pan and other Los Angeles restaurants in the 70s before they hit it big in Hollywood and before they were cast as sisters-in-law in this movie. They have both won Academy Awards in their career. So, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't. You listed off those other movies she was in. I don't. I mean, I'm no slight to her, but I don't really remember her being in that much. But yeah, when you mentioned those movies, I could picture her in those. But yeah, she kind of had a gap there, I guess, where she wasn't in too much for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, she had a couple of couple of gaps there. But I liked her. I mean, I liked her in Footloose. I liked her in Lost Boys. I think once again, character, if it wasn't written specifically for her, she's perfectly cast. That seems to be like the character she plays is kind of similar to the other kind of moms that she'd played.
Oh, yeah, she's great in this, and in fact, to get maybe more laughs than Steve Martin in a movie with Steve Martin. I would say that like she's got some really good timing in this when she delivers some of her lines, and she made me laugh probably more than Steve Martin did watching it again the other night.
All right, moving down the list, we got Jason Robards as Frank, the patriarch of the family. His other notable films include Long Day's Journey into Night in 62, Once Upon a Time in the West in 68, Tora 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 in 1970. Also in 1989, he was in Dreamy Little Dream with the Two Coreys. In 93, he was in Philadelphia. 98, Enemy of the State, and Magnolia in 1999. But the incomparable voice of Jason Robards, he just has that very distinctive voice for sure. But but I liked him in this.
Yeah. He's sort of the most I don't want to say relatable, just sort of the sort of representing a lot of the struggles of late parenthood when they get a little bit older. It's sort of, I guess, connected with me much more watching it the other night than it ever had before.
Right. Yeah, I think I had a little more sympathy for him the last couple of times I've watched it. I don't think I thought of him as a very good father in the first time I watched it, but yeah, definitely felt a little bit more sympathy for him for sure. And then we've got Rick Moranis as Nathan. Of course, we've talked about him in Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters 2, Little Shop of Horrors. But of course, he was also in Spaceballs in 87, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids in 99, as well as its sequels in 92 and 97, My Blue Heaven from 1990, and The Flintstones in 1994. Very different role for him than I was used to in this, a little more straight-laced. I loved his character, though. Like, even watching it now, just like that, the very type A, like, very, like, future-focused parent, like, the helicopter parent for sure.
Yeah, I could relate to him too. I think, we were, when the kids were younger, we leaned a little bit in that direction sometimes and had to sort of catch ourselves and say, no, let's just let them be kids. But yeah, when the lights go out and he explains what a blackout is to his little girl, that made me laugh. But I love Rick Moranis in everything he was in back in the day.
Yes, absolutely. And then we've got Tom Hulse as Larry. Best known for his portrayal as Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart in the Academy Award-winning film Amadeus from 1984. He also played the role of Larry Pinto Kroger in Animal House in 78, and he's the voice of Quasimodo in Disney's animated The Hunchback of Notre Dame from 1996. So, boy, Larry, that the character of Larry is probably
Yeah.
I won't say the most memorable, but I think it leaves the most lasting impression. I think for me, just that I don't know, maybe because I shouldn't say every family, but like I know in my family, I have someone like that that's, always needs something, always trying to
Yeah.
pull one over on the family, or always, he's got some kind of scheme that he's trying to pull together, and everybody's kind of rolling their eyes. But, he was the dad at the beginning of the movie. He could do no wrong. Like he has no, so
Right.
yeah.
He comes in like all big time with his sunglasses on and
Yeah, oh, yeah.
acting like he has a lot of money, and
Mm-hmm.
turns out the opposite is true.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, like you said, almost every family has. I mean, that's kind of one of those things where once you decide to write a movie like this, so much of that stuff probably just writes itself because, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
not to diminish the talent that went into it,
No, of course not.
but
Yeah.
it's just, like you said, everybody has all these different stories that they experienced, and everybody has a person like that in their family that they can
Mhm.
work into the scripts.
Yeah, yeah. And, we're not finished the cast, so I kind of think it's a good place to interject here, but I think one reason why I think it's such a successful movie and why it spawned 2 different TV shows, we'll talk about a little bit later, but I think it does a good job of showing complex families of, like,
Yes.
lots of different types. Everybody raises their
Right.
kids a little different. Everybody's got their own little quirks or their, there are things that are going on. So it's a true ensemble film where everybody kind of gets their equal time, and it is primarily about Gil and his family, but I feel like the other family members and their stories get told very well. And, even though it is very much, coming from, we talked about I always get their names wrong. The two writers, Babalu Mandel and Lands.
Lowell Gans.
Lowell Gans. I always
Yeah.
want to put Lowell and Gans together and call it Lands. But they were sitcom writers, so
Right.
it is kind of like a nice bow tie ending at the end, where everybody kind of gets their realization all at the same time. Of course, life doesn't always work out that way, but for the sake of telling a story, I think they did a good job of putting all the pieces together
Yeah.
and making it work with the
Yeah.
multiple storylines and the multiple characters. So.
If your name is Babalu, you really have no choice but to be a sitcom writer or like work at the circus or something, I guess.
Yeah. It's like, it's one of those things like, was that your given name? And
I don't know. I'm sure. I would hope not.
right. I mean, I think and side note, but my dad and I were watching, I went over to my dad's and we were watching the Braves game earlier today. And I think one of the New York Mets had a player and his name was Rowdy. That was his first name. I can't remember his last name was, but I was like, I'm sure his mama didn't name him Rowdy,
No, probably.
There were no quotation marks around it, but that was the name on his,
Usually
on
that's
his
not what you're
baseball
hoping
card.
for when your baby is
Right.
born. Man, I hope he's rowdy.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right. So moving right along, Martha Plimpton as Julie. We talked about her on the Goonies episode. She was also in The Mosquito Coast in 86, Shy People in 87, Running on Empty in 88, and Beautiful Girls in 1996. She's still working today. I remember her being in a couple episodes of The Good Wife, which I was a big fan of that show when it was on. So, excuse me. Martha Plimpton was actually bald at the beginning of filming because she had just finished Silence Like Glass, in which she played a cancer patient. She wore a wig throughout filming and a hairpiece when Julie has a mohawk. This is probably why halfway through the movie, Julie and boyfriend Todd shaved their heads. Ron Howard was sick of the wig and wanted Plimpton to show her real hair finally.
Huh. That's
So
interesting.
I guess
Yeah.
the short, it had grown enough to be kind of the short hair for the little buzz cut on the side.
Right.
Yeah. And another fun fact, she plays the older sister of Joaquin Phoenix. In real life, she dated his older brother, River Phoenix, for nearly 5 years. River Phoenix and Plimpton
Yeah.
also appeared in 2 other movies together. So, yeah. I'd kind of forgotten that she had dated River
Yeah, me
Phoenix.
too.
But, yeah. And then the Keanu Reeves as Todd with only one D, which I noticed when he was on his racing helmet. It was TOD.
Okay.
No double D on Todd. So, of course, we talked about him on our Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. He also played, he was also in the sequel, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey in 91. He gained praise for playing a hustler in the independent drama My Own Private Idaho in 91, and established himself as an action hero with leading roles in Point Break in 91 and Speed in 94. And of course, he gained the greatest stardom, or his greatest stardom, with Neo in The Matrix in 1999. But of course, it's funny. You have like the generation that knows him as Bill and Ted, the generation that knows him as, Speed,
Right.
the generation that knows him as a Matrix. Now you got the generation that knows him as John Wick. So it's like,
yeah.
he's kind of decades of iconic characters. Yeah.
I assume Bill and Ted came out right around the same time as this?
It did, but it was like we covered it. It was actually filmed in 87 and shelved for 2 years.
Wow.
So
Okay.
it was well in the can, but I think, I'm trying to think when it came out. They might have come out like really close to the same time, because I think Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure came out like late summer of 89 as well. So those might have been in the theater around the same time.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's strange to think that just from 10 years, in 10 years, he went from Bill and Ted and this to
Mhm.
Neo in The
Yeah.
Matrix. That's,
Yeah.
yeah.
He had a couple of duds there in the 90s though. So after Speed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But I still love Speed. That's one of my favorite action movies.
Yeah,
My
that's
wife
one I
likes to
haven't
watch that.
seen in a long, long time either.
Oh yeah, yeah. All right. A name that I would not recognize, but I definitely recognize the actress, Harley Jane Kozak as Susan, Rick Moranis's wife in the movie.
Mhm.
She made her feature film debut in the slasher film The House on Sorority Row in 1982, and had a recurring role as Mary Duval in the soap opera Santa Barbara between 1985 and 89. She later had supporting parts in Clean and Sober in 88 and When Harry Met Sally in 89. Before this was her first starring major studio film, and then she followed that up with Arachnophobia in 1990. So
Yeah, she looked familiar to me too, but I had to look her up as well. I had no idea what her name was. I was kind of surprised that she really, after that though, she really wasn't in. She hasn't been in very much.
No, she hasn't
recently.
Yeah.
And when I say recently, I mean the past 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess she kind of hung up the acting gig after a while, but
Yeah.
she was good too.
She was good in this. Yeah, I liked her character a lot. I wish I will say the one scene that I thought was gonna have some kind of payoff or would have come back around is when when she gets upset with Rick Moranis, like about the middle of the movie, and she goes in the closet and she pulls out like her bag of like chocolate, where she's obviously eating like the junk food, because I know they made the comment they were power eating or whatever. But I was waiting for that to come back up somewhere at the end. I don't think it ever kind of never got.
Yeah.
There was no payoff. Like it never got brought up, or never.
Right.
She was never got caught with it or anything like that, which I thought was interesting. So it was just a plot hole,
maybe
or
a
something
cut scene or something.
Yeah, has to be. Yeah, I didn't have any deleted scenes to watch when I was on this one. So, and then Dennis Dugan as David, Steve Martin Gil's boss. We just talked about him in our Can't Buy Me Love episode a few months ago, but he's most notably known as the director of most of the Adam Sandler movies. So when he left acting, I think this was his last film role before he started directing.
Really? Wow.
Yep.
I did not know that. Which Adam Sandler? So did he do Billy Madison and
Yeah, like all of
Happy
the
Gilmore and those?
Yeah,
oh wow.
The goofiest of the goofy, or most of them were directed by Dennis Dugan. So
well, I'll be. You learn something every day from this podcast, don't you?
I try to help everyone know. All right, we're moving right along, almost done. Joaquin Phoenix, we've mentioned already, as Gary. His first major role was in Space Camp in 86, followed it up with this, Parenthood in 89. In the early 90s, he received critical acclaim for supporting roles in To Die For in 95 with Nicole Kidman, and Quills in 2000. But he gained most popularity from his Oscar-nominated performance as Commodus in Gladiator in 2000. He had success with the horror film Signs in 2002, as well as The Village in 2004. And he also won a Grammy Award, a Golden Globe Award, and a nomination for Academy Award for Best Actor for his portrayal of Johnny Cash in the biopic Walk the Line in 2005. So,
yeah,
yeah.
such a very talented kid at his age when he made this. I mean, just especially the scene where he calls his father, and
Yes.
you just
Yes.
see it all written on his face. It was,
Mhm.
really top-notch acting for a kid his age.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder if that's the scene they had him read for his audition. So, but yeah, I loved his character. I loved the arc of his character, like the very kind of quiet, you know, reserved, and you find out like he really wants to spend time with his dad. His dad, turns him away pretty
Mhm.
much, and then for him to find a bond with Todd, Keanu Reeves' character, and then eventually liking his mom's boyfriend, the biology teacher, I think.
Yeah.
It's biology? Yeah,
Oh.
so
Mm.
I knew it was science, some
Yeah,
kind
I
of
think
science,
so.
it was biology, yeah. So, yeah, so I did like his arc for sure.
Mm.
So, Eileen Ryan as Marilyn, I'm not really sure, I think that was Jason Robards' wife, the mom,
Okay.
the matriarch of the family.
Mhm.
She's been in a couple of movies, but she's most well known as the wife of actor and director Leo Penn and the mother of actors Sean and Chris Penn. So, and I think she was actually she has a scene with Sean Penn in At Close Range, because I'd watched that probably like a year ago or so,
Hmm.
and I'm reading that. So,
Okay. Yeah. She didn't really have much to do
no,
in this other than just sort of have a disapproving look on her face through most of the
yeah,
yeah.
exactly, exactly, yeah. We don't have room in the house for cool. So, did he say cool? Cool.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, and then Kevin, the main kid, I guess, or the main son that had the biggest plot point, was played by Jason Fisher. He also played the character of Luke in The Witches in 1990 with Rowan Atkinson and Angelica Houston. At the age of 11, he portrayed Ace, one of the Lost Boys, in the film Hook, alongside Robin Williams and Julia Roberts. And pretty much after that, he stopped acting. So that's pretty much all he did. So
Well, yeah. I mean, he was,
it was good.
yeah. For me, probably when I first saw it in '89,
Hmm.
especially, I probably could really relate to him. I was a
Hmm.
nervous child like he was, and I tried to play baseball, and I was awful at it, and
Oh, wow. Okay.
I
Hmm.
felt all those like, man, I let my team down moments,
Hmm.
and it
Hmm.
was, yeah. So I could definitely relate to him.
Hmm.
In
Yeah, I would agree with that. I was not as athletic as I wanted to be for sure, and become much more anxiety ridden as I got older, but probably probably was that way as a kid too. So yeah,
yeah.
but yeah. And then Allison Porter as Taylor, which I know was one of the daughters. I don't remember which one it was, but I mentioned her because her breakout role came in 1991 when she played the lead role of Curly Sue opposite Jim Belushi. So
Oh wow.
yeah,
Okay. Was she Rick Moranis? And
that's what I think. I
yeah,
think that was her. I think
yeah.
that was the one she was. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah,
So
she looked a lot. I mean, her hair was very different, obviously,
oh
in
yeah,
Curly
yeah,
Sue.
right.
But yeah, I think that was her. Huh. I didn't recognize her, but now that you mention it,
No, I wouldn't have either. So, and then, of course, you can't have a Ron Howard directed movie without seeing Clint Howard, his younger brother.
yep.
He's appeared in 17 films directed by his older brother, including his first directorial effort, a short film called Old Paint, when Clint was only 10. He also starred in Ron Howard's first full length feature film, Grand Theft Auto. Other roles include Cocoon, Gung Ho, Backdraft, Far and Away, Apollo 13, Ed TV, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and Cinderella Man.
In other words, basically everything that Ron
Yeah.
Howard has directed.
Right, right. Like if he's not in it, then I'm like, where is he? So And I see him pop up and anytime I see him, I was like, hey, it's Ron Howard's brother. Like, I don't remember his name is Clint. I just know he's Ron Howard's brother when he pops up in something. So,
Right. He has a little bit of a bigger role as far as impact on the plot, I guess, in this than he
yeah,
does in a lot
yeah,
of his other cameos in Ron Howard's
hmm
movies. But
yeah,
yeah, yeah. What was it he said? You shouldn't be out there, or well, I can't remember. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, just made me feel like even
hmm
worse for the kid Kevin at the time.
Oh, yeah. He's telling his kid, I don't care where it goes. You catch the ball,
Right.
like, and I'm like, I knew it was like, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah,
we
what?
with our kids when they played baseball, we were very involved, and yeah, every team they were on had a parent, at least one parent like that was just yelling from the sides instead of just letting the coaches coach. But yeah, another
Yeah.
very relatable character in this movie.
Yeah. Our daughter she played soccer for 2 seasons, and she was not that athletic then. She's definitely not athletic now, but she wanted to do it. We wanted her, wanted her to at least get the exposure, make some friends, whatever. But yeah, we were also concerned about the other parents, and we had super competitive, nice people, like when you got to talk to them, on the
Yeah,
sidelines. But
but
like
yeah, the switch
once
flips.
once the game was on, it was like, okay, get out of their way, just let them do what they're doing. So
Yep, yep.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Speaking of other family members, when Gil imagines Kevin giving his valedictorian speech, the university president who introduces him is played by director Ron Howard's father, Rance Howard.
Huh.
And
Okay.
daughter Bryce Dallas Howard also has a cameo in the film. She's one of the kids at the birthday party, which I did not see her. I didn't
Yeah.
recognize her, but I'm sure she was probably so young there's no way you would recognize her unless she was the only one with red hair. But I don't think I would have picked up on that at all. So,
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
but yeah, but that's the cast as I have it. Of course, couldn't cover everybody, but anybody else in the cast that you felt was overlooked, or anybody you want to
Well,
mention or have any additional comments about?
I think you covered it very thoroughly as usual.
Okay. I try. All right. Well, let's jump into iconic and favorite scenes. So I'm ready for this part, but I'll ask you first. If someone says Parenthood, what's the first thing that pops in your head, which would be the iconic scene?
The first thing that pops in my head is actually the roller coaster
Okay.
scene
Okay.
towards the
Yeah.
end. I
Yeah.
don't know why that always stuck with me over the years.
It was definitely a choice, the director's choice to like
Hmm.
have that. Once again, I don't think I quite understood it as a
No.
kid, but
Well,
as I got older,
yeah.
well, I mean, I understood it, but it felt weird. Like I wasn't used to that type of a movie to like pull you out of reality in that way. But
Right, right.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly became more relatable
Yeah.
once we had kids.
Right,
It
right.
is a roller coaster,
For sure.
but the speech that the grandmother gave
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
sort of, manifests itself with the roller coaster scene
Mhm.
reminded me a lot of there's a song called Wall of Death that is exactly
Okay.
about that. It's about all the rides at the fair,
Mhm.
and that in the song it's like you can waste your time on the other rides, the merry-go-round and all that stuff. I want to ride the most dangerous ride, the Wall of Death. And as a metaphor for life, it's very I
Yeah.
wonder, I've actually looked back, I was like, when did that song come out originally? And it came out about 6 years, I think, before
Okay.
Parenthood. So maybe Lowell
Maybe.
Gans
Yeah.
or Babaloo Mendel or somebody
Mhm.
liked that song
Yeah.
too and thought that the message of that
Mhm.
song would work well in the movie. So
Yeah. I could see that. Very
yeah, so
possible.
that's always been the scene that when you say Parenthood, I mean, there are others too. The
Mhm.
Cowboy Gil scene
Yeah. Yeah.
and Rick Moranis coming into the classroom and singing Close to You
Yeah.
are sort of iconic for me. But yeah, that's,
What you got?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Cowboy Gil was definitely the iconic scene for me. That is the like, as a kid, or when I saw it the first time, that was the scene that I was kinda most engaged with, that and kind of the baseball field scenes. But yeah, the him coming out with, like, the ripped, or like the cut in the middle bathroom floor mat as his like chaps and his cowboy boots and his, it was just super funny. And, of course that's just Steve Martin being Steve Martin at that point. That's what I paid. That's what I paid my ticket to see, was to see Steve Martin be Steve Martin. So, but yeah.
It's not really played for big laughs, but the line after I slip around in a man's guts, I like to make balloon animals.
Yeah. And they're like, what is he making? What is he making? Your lower intestines. Like, and the kids, would they even know what that means? But like for me, I thought it was hilarious. Yeah. So yeah. So that's definitely my iconic scene for me. Let's talk about favorite scenes. Any scenes that you would say would be your favorite scenes? And I'll say I did have the roller coaster versus merry-go-round story listed as one of my favorite scenes for sure.
Really? Yeah. I mean, I had some favorite lines that I jotted down.
Yeah.
Like when Diane Wiest is looking through the pictures and she holds one up. I think this one's my favorite.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, she has some really great timing in this movie with with those lines and sort of finding the right way to say it.
Yeah.
To get a laugh.
One of my favorite scenes with her, sorry to interrupt you, but is when she's trying to break up the fight between Todd and her daughter, and he's like, she's hitting on him like, what are you doing? Leave her alone. Stop hitting. He's like, I'm not gonna go, I'm not gonna abandon my wife. She's like, wife, we got married a couple of days ago, and then she starts hitting the daughter the same way. Like, what were you thinking? So
right.
I love that scene. Always makes me laugh. So yeah.
Yeah. And then another one from her when the biology teacher says, I think it was him. He says, I was at Woodstock.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And she says, oh yeah, I thought you looked familiar.
You looked familiar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't be a grandma. My grandma's, knit and tell stories and about the Great Depression. I was at Woodstock. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Great scene. Speaking of favorite lines, probably my favorite line is when, after Keanu Reeves has the kind of the talk with Gary, and she finds out why he's been so moody, and he's talking, and she was like, I guess he needs a father figure in his life, and he talks about how his dad treated him, and I love, he's like, you need a license to buy a dog or drive a car. You even need a license to catch a fish, but they'll let any butt-reaming a-hole be a father.
Yeah.
And then he like kind of shakes it off, like, where did that come from? Like, I'm not, I'm not smart or whatever, he's kind of shaking off. So, but yeah.
Yeah. Keanu was really good in this too. The Steve Martin or Gil's fantasy scenes.
Yes. Yeah.
Struck me this time watching it again. I didn't really remember those being a part of it, but I thought like the introduction, the very first scene with the amalgam of the different ushers that babysat him while his dad and just like telling him, you're an amalgam of the different, like it was just I thought it was very well written. I thought it was a very like cool way to introduce the movie. And then later the scene with Kevin graduating and being the valedictorian was very funny. And then the alternative version of that maybe didn't age quite as well.
No, it didn't.
Because unfortunately, what it depicts has become more commonplace, and it's a little more disturbing to see these days. Yeah, it was. I really liked those fantasy scenes and sort of the way that they moved the story forward. I thought, and sort of revealed something about Gil. Yeah,
for sure. I do kind of wish, like, we have that one at the beginning. We have those two. Like, I wish there would have been a few more in there, maybe just to kind of, round it out some. But they're there when they're needed. So, and then you got to find that right balance of what's too much versus too little. So, but it did kind of help with the roller coaster scene at the end. Like, okay, well, that's kind of, he has his imagination that kind of takes him somewhere else. So it does kind of help kind of ground that scene a little bit more. So, but yeah, the losing the retainer scene was my other like favorite scene, just because it comes from real life. I remember I was that kid. I lost my retainer. It got thrown away. I don't know where it is. And you know, and the whole thing about like, he's like, I'm done. Forget about it. It's like $200. If it was $200 as trash can, you look for it. What do you? And like, that's exactly what mom and dad would have said. Like, that's a conversation they would have had. Like, we paid too much money for this retainer, you know? And I
Yeah.
even remember like I had the little plastic thing you put the retainer in
Yeah.
and like, don't make sure you go with that. Like, who wants to carry that around with them? So I was like, I left, we went out to eat. I didn't bring it with me, and sure enough, I wrapped it in a paper towel or a napkin, and
yeah, maybe every kid that ever had a retainer did that because, yeah. But then, like you said, when she said if you lost $200, you'd look for it too. I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, inflation really like right
Oh,
now,
really?
$200.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'll let it go. I think.
It'll hurt a little bit, but not that bad.
Yeah, what's that? Like 2 dinners out?
Right,
Nah,
right.
I'm good. I'm not going to dig through a dumpster for that.
Yeah.
But with inflation, it's probably 1,000. You know, nowadays.
Easy. Yeah, easy. So, all right. Any other scenes you want to mention before we jump into trivia?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about a couple of other scenes that are from trivia that we kind of get into before we wrap it up. I thought this was interesting. This was the very first movie filmed at Universal Pictures, Florida, before it opened on June 7th, 1990. So even though it's set in St. Louis, it was completely filmed in Florida, in Orlando, Florida.
I didn't even realize that that was a working studio at any point. I thought it was just for tourists.
Yeah, I did too, but I guess they were using it as a studio before they made it a tourist. But yeah, I did notice because I'd seen this before I started watching the movie. And so like when they're leaving the baseball game and they're walking to the parking lot,
right,
the car that comes up behind them has a Florida license plate on it. I was like, oh, well, that would have given it away, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
During filming, the cast became obsessed with playing the murder game, a game in which one person who is the murderer has to find a subtle way to kill other players simply by looking at them without giving themselves away as the murderer. This is apparent in the dinner scene where everyone is sitting around the table watching everyone's eye movements. It's obvious they're playing the game. So, have you ever played that game before?
I have not.
Okay.
First time I've ever heard of it.
Yeah, that was big when I was in college, and I did some camp counseling stuff on the summers, and somebody taught us that. But it's like everybody has their eyes closed, and like the person leading the game chooses who's going to be kind of the murderer, and you get to open your eyes for a couple of minutes, and you kind of talk, and you try to figure out who the murderer is, and then everybody closes their eyes again, and it's been a long time since I played, so I'm probably messing up some of the rules, but yeah, I did recognize the reference, so.
Yeah, well, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
Might have to play that sometime.
Definitely something when there's like no TV, no internet, it's that type of game. Like there's nothing else to do.
Next time we have an ice storm and the power's out, we'll play that.
You get tired of playing Uno or Monopoly. Right. So I mentioned earlier there were 2 attempts to adapt this movie into a TV series. The first was Parenthood in 1990. It ran for only 12 episodes during the 90-91 season. Although the characters all retained their names from the film, all actors but a handful of the children were recast. The adult leads were Ed Begley Jr. and Jane Atkinson as Gil and Karen Buckman, and the show provided an early role for the then teenage Leonardo DiCaprio as Gary Buckman, the role originally played by Joaquin Phoenix. I vaguely remember that show. I remember Ed Begley as the dad. But the second version, Parenthood, it came out in 2010, was a looser adaptation. For example, the main family's last name was changed to Braverman and was much more successful than the first. It started in 2010, ran for 6 seasons, and starred Lauren Graham, Peter Krause, Dax Shepard, and they didn't have his list, and I can't think of his name now. Craig T. Nelson. Craig T. Nelson was the patriarch. So, but yeah, which I've heard only good things about that show, and I've never watched it. And now after watching the movie again, I'm like, you know what? Usually during the summer, I go back and watch an old show that I've never watched or haven't watched in a long time. So I might try to find where that's streaming now and go back and watch it.
Yeah, same here. I've always heard it was good, but never saw that. I think I did watch the Ed Begley show, but apparently not enough people did since it didn't last very long. I don't really remember if it was any good.
Right.
When I was that age, I watched whatever was on,
And obviously it was not memorable.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
besides Ed Begley Jr. So, but would be interesting to go back and see Leonardo DiCaprio. I remember it. I remember him when he was on Growing Pains, like the last season or whatever of Growing Pains. But yeah, this would have been probably a year or two after that. So. All right, let's jump into box office. Parenthood was released in U.S. theaters on August 2nd, 1989. It opened at number 1 in its opening weekend, earning $10 million. It beat the other new releases that week, Sly Stallone's Lock Up, which came in at number 6, and Yahoo Serious's Young Einstein at number 8.
Wow. Yahoo Serious. That's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Yeah.
So again, was that his given name?
No, I don't think
so. Did his mom name him Yahoo?
And kids, this is before there was a Yahoo search engine. It was even before that. So, but yeah, Young Einstein, a forgotten 80s movie that should stay forgotten.
Is there a 80s Flick Flashback episode for Young Einstein or no? Just think it best leave that buried.
I don't even think it's on the list. If I probably was like, nah, I don't even think I want to watch it. I think I tried to watch it even like a couple years after it came out because there were some friends of mine that thought it was the most hilarious thing they'd ever seen, and I was just like, I just don't get it. But wasn't my cup of tea. All right, now it's time to take a look at how well this 80s flick holds up today. It's the rewatchability and nostalgia meter. It's our way of measuring how enjoyable a movie is for repeat viewings, along with the waves of nostalgia it brings. Here's how it works. It's a 1 to 10 scale. Any number between 1 and 10 will do, but here are a few parameters to help you decide. At the bottom of the meter is a number 1, which means I saw it once and that was enough. In the middle is a 5, means it's a good rewatch every couple of years. And at the top of the meter, the highly coveted, highly rewatchable and full nostalgia. So, Ben, where does Parenthood rank for you on the rewatchability and nostalgia meter?
I mean, I did feel some nostalgia watching it again, but I also felt like it held up really well as just, like I said, I could relate to so many of the characters, so many of the events that it felt nostalgic, but also very, modern day at the same time. On the other hand, like I said, I hadn't seen it in probably 20, 25 years before I watched it the other night. But I would watch it again with somebody, soon. If somebody said they wanted to watch it, I'd watch it with them. Let's go. I'll give it. Let's go 6. I think it's a better movie than that. If you just asked me to rank the movie, I'd give it higher than a 6. But as on your nostalgia meter, I'd go 6.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same with you. I was for the rewatchability and nostalgia meter. It's a solid 6. It's a great movie. There is some nostalgia that I have with it. Not as much, not in the same as like other 80s movies that we gush about or we talk about a lot more often. But it's not one that I have watched a lot, and it's not one that I think like, well, I feel like watching Parenthood today. But same, if someone said they hadn't seen it or they hadn't seen it in a long time, I'd gladly sit down and watch it with them again. But if I was ranking it as like just the quality of movie that it is and how well it holds up, it'd be much higher. Probably more like an 8, 8 for me. So, but 6 was exactly where I was going for rewatchability, rewatchable and nostalgia for sure. So
cool. Well, I'm glad we agree on that.
Two dads talking about a movie about parents in the 80s. So it works. Well, let us know where you think Parenthood should rank on the rewatchability and nostalgia meter. You can send us an email, or let us know on social media, or leave us a comment in the comment section on YouTube. So, well, it's been fun. Thank you, Ben, for joining. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. And this was a good one to talk about for sure. So,
yep. I always enjoy it as well.
Yep. Look forward to having you back soon. All right, that's a wrap on another trip through the greatest decade of cinema. If we sparked a memory or helped you rediscover a classic today, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. It truly helps the show reach more fans like you. Make sure you're always in the loop for our next deep dive. Hit that follow or subscribe button. And if you want to help keep the show running, consider becoming a partner at buymeacoffee.com. For more 80s goodness, our digital headquarters is always open at 80sflickflashback.com. And while you're there, check out our TeePublic store for original designs and movie-inspired merch that'll have you looking like an 80s icon. Thank you, Ben, for joining. Thanks, everybody, for listening. For the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast, I'm Tim Williams. Hubba hubba.